Hi and welcome to another very exciting tutorial. Today we're going to explore the possibilities of the map view, and we're going to discuss all of the important steps that lead to a map view implementation, which includes adding the reason, for example, why you want to use the user's location, which we have to provide in the info plist file. So here is the little demo application that we are going to build, which is very simple. We have a map view here at the top and two labels, one with the my location text, and beneath that we've got the address of our pin here. So we are also going to discuss how to place a pin on the map. Of course, we can also update our location, but this doesn't make a lot of sense within the simulator where we can't really change our location easily. So let's go ahead and dive right into Xcode and create a new single view application, which is going to be called my location, and hitting next, and we will just save it on the desktop. And I'm going to resize my Xcode window here. And the first step that we need to do actually is embedding or link our project with the MapKit framework. So what we are going to do is we look for the linked frameworks and libraries, click the plus icon here, and then type in MapKit in the search field at the top of this at the top of the Xcode window, and we add now the MapKit framework. So that's the first step. The second step is going to be that we want to create our really simple user interface, clicking on the main storyboard file, and here it is, our empty view controller. And what we want to do is actually really simple. We search for the MapKit view, we just drag and drop it to our view controller, and we will resize it something like that, so that it fills quite a big amount of the screen. And then we will also add some labels, so just searching for a label here and positioning it here beneath the MapKit view. So this is going to be my location, colon, and also another label where we will place the address, which we will get from our MapKit, or the real geolocation of the user. Position that a little here, a little more to the left. And what we also want to do is adding a button which will be responsible for updating the map view. So just type in update. And now we will set some constraints in order for our view to be positioned correctly on different devices. So we will click on the map view, press Control on the keyboard, and simply drag to the view here in our document outline. So now we are going to select the leading space, the trailing space, and the top space to layout guide, and hit enter on the keyboard. And then we will simply press Control again and click drag within the MKMapView and select the height so that we have a constant height on every device. And then we will give our location a little higher font size, something like that. Make this a little bigger, and also give the my location some constraints, which will be a vertical spacing to the map view and a leading space, which actually should do it in that case. We will update the constraints in a second, because as you can see, there are some blue lines, but there are also red and yellow or orange lines, but we're going to correct that in a second. And also we are going to set the constraints for our real address. So first of all, a vertical spacing, and we will increase the size a little, and also make a leading space to container margin and a trailing space. And let's do the same thing for our update button, which will get a constraint for the bottom space to bottom layout guide, and also we're going to center it horizontally in the container. And now, as you have already seen, we have some red lines and we can, or yellow lines, and we can simply have a look at the view controller scene and click on this yellow icon here. And as you can see here, we have some expected locations which we will need to update. So let me zoom out a little and go into the size inspector here on the right. And as you can see, we have an expected width of 131 pixels and an actual width of 134. So let's simply correct that, 131. And also height is expected 28, so let's type in 28. And that's it. And for the New York label, we will actually need a Y position of 459. So Y459. And that's it. Now we have our user setup, user interface set up, and we can now make some connections. So let's bring up the assistant editor and make an outlet for our map view. So let's just call that map view. And also let's make an outlet for our address label, or let's say location info. And what we also need is an action for our button, which is going to be called update location. And make sure that you select as a connection an action and not an outlet, and let's click connect, and that's it. And as you can see here in the assistant editor already, we have an arrow which tells us that we use an undeclared type, which is MKMapView. So what we need to do is import mapkit to our view controller Swift file and build that, and as you can see, build succeeded. And that was actually the first steps of creating an app which uses the location services of the iPhone. And I also want to give you a little tip here for working with locations. There are some great predefined classes which you can use from GitHub, and we have a location manager here, which is really quite handy, and it's already written in Swift. So just go ahead and download that. We're going to use it in a moment, and this will really make our work a little easier than using all the Apple default classes. So just go ahead and download the zip file. You will find the URL for this class, for this GitHub project in the video description. So I have downloaded it, and let me just open it. And what we want to do now is simply using the location manager Swift file and drag it to our project, and make sure that you select destination copy items if needed and click finish. And now I can use this location manager class. And since the introduction of iOS 8, we have to specify the reasons why we want to use the user's location. And we have two modes that we can select, which I have copied to make no mistake here. And there are two reasons that we have to describe. One is the when in use usage description. So this would tell our application that we only want to get the user's location when the app really is used and in foreground. And the always usage description describes that we want to use the location of the user even if the user doesn't use the app at the moment. So when we can make background refreshes of the location when using this description. And for the simplicity of this tutorial, I'm going to select the NS location always usage description and simply copy that. You can, of course, also use this description key depending on your application that you want to build. So I have copied this key here, and what I want to do is pasting it in the info plist. This is where we have to define the description. And so I'm opening up my supporting files and opening up the info plist, and now I'm going to right click and add a new row. And now I'm going to paste this key And now I can add a value which is of type string, and this is the description, and now I have to state why I want to use the user's location always, even if the app is in background. So I'm going to say to update the map. You can, of course, choose whatever description you like. It should be very exact and short, of course, because many users do not read that. But we have to provide it anyway. So this is the first step, and now we can actually move on to our view controller file and do some stuff with the user's location. So first of all, what we want to do is defining a location manager where we will use the Apple Core Location Manager. So this is going to be a property. We will call it Core Location Manager, and it will we will initialize it right here with CL Location Manager. And that's it. This is the first thing we need to do. And we also want to use this location manager class, which we have downloaded from GitHub later, but we will also define the property associated with this class later. So what we also need is the CL Location Manager Delegate. So let's also adopt that protocol, CL Location Manager Delegate. And now we will set up all that stuff in the view.load method. So first of all, we will remove that comment here, and now we are going to tell our Core Location Manager that its delegate is going to be self. So this was the first step. Now, the first time we're going to launch our app, we wanted to ask the user for authorization for our to use the location. So what we're going to do is we will create a constant here, which we will call authorization code, and we will then use the CL Location Manager and simply use its authorization status property. And now we have the authorization code, which we can use to make an if statement, and we can now ask if the authorization code is equal to CL authorization status not determined. So if the user has not yet decided if he wants to allow our app to use his or her location, then it is not determined. So then we can actually ask for a specific authorization status, which is either always allowed or only when in use. So we will also ask within this if statement if the Core Location Manager responds to the selector request always authorization. And if this is the case, then we can actually request the location service for our app. But we could also include an OR statement here and also ask for Core Location Manager response to selector request when in use authorization. So we can do both things here, and in our within our code block here, we need to do another if statement. So we need to ask if there is this description. So we say NS bundle main bundle object for info dictionary. And now we have to use the NS location always usage description key, which we have defined in the info plist, and of course using the NS bundle main bundle object for info dictionary key, we get into our info plist file and can ask if this is not equal to nil. So that means that we have provided a description for the always usage request, and if this is available, so if this description is available, we can say Core Location Manager request always authorization, and you can also see that here is also the request when in use authorization. And depending on what you want to do, you can then change this NS location always usage to when in use, and then call the when in use method here using the core location manager property. So this was the first part of this if statement, and there's also an else part where we will simply say that there was no description provided. So no description provided. This is going to help you if you have not yet provided a description. It will also tell you this in your console, so that you can then go ahead and make the adjustments to the info plist. So this is actually only going to happen, this request always authorization, when the user has not yet determined if he wants to allow our application to use his current location. This code, however, should only be called once when the application starts for the first time, because then the user has determined if he or she wants our application to get his or her current location. So if the authorization code is not equal to not determined, so if we have another authorization code which should indicate that we are allowed to use the user's location, then we can actually do what our application is supposed to do, which is of course getting the user's location. So we will simply call a method called getLocation here, which we will implement now. So this is going to be a new function. As you can see, it's called getLocation. We have no parameters here. And what it does is actually pretty simple. We can now use the location manager, the custom location manager that we have downloaded from GitHub. So we will define a new property for that location manager. So we say location manager, which is going to be an of the type location manager, and we will then initialize this location manager in view.load. So we can simply say location manager equals capital L location manager dot shared instance. And that's actually all there is to getting this location manager up and running. And since we now have this new property, we can use its really convenient functionality. And I'm going to call the location manager and simply call start updating location with completion handler. And this completion handler gives us all the information we need, like latitude, longitude, a status, verbose message, and an error message. And you can, of course, use the this error object in order to print a lot of information to the user and make it really transparent what's not working at the moment. But for simplicity's sake, we will just skip that and simply call another function here that we're going to implement, which is going to be called display location. This will get a parameter which is a location of type CL location, which is this one. And we will then use this this location in a second. So let's just call that display location method within our getLocation method. So let's say self display location, and we have to use self because we are within a closure. So we will now provide this display location method with the parameter it asks for, which is the location. So we will create a CL location object with the latitude and longitude, and these two properties we actually get from the completion handler here. So let's simply provide it with the latitude and the longitude. And that's it. And now that we have our parameter here provided with the necessary information, we can go ahead and use our map view to display this location. So let me make some space here. And we will call our map view and set its region. So let's call set region. And as you can see, it asks for an MK coordinate region. So we will provide it with one. So MK coordinate region. And this again wants a center, which is going to be a CL location coordinate 2D. So again, CL location coordinate 2D. And we will use the make constructor here, and we will now provide it with a longitude and a latitude again, and we will get that from our parameter location. So location dot latitude dot coordinate dot latitude, and again location.coordinate.longitude. And now it asks us for a span, so this is what it actually, which span of area it should display. So here we will also use the MK coordinate span make, and we will use a delta of, let's just say 0.05, and again 0.05. And you can of course choose if you want it to be animated or not. I choose it to be that it should be animated, which looks quite cool actually. So this is to set the region of the map so that we can have the proper area displayed on the screen. In order for us to set a red pin to our exact location, we will again get a coordinate object, which is going to be the location pin coordinates, and we will get them again by using CL location coordinate 2D, and give that the two parameters we need, which is again location dot coordinate dot latitude and location dot coordinate dot longitude. And now that we have this these coordinates, we can create a so-called point annotation. So let's say let annotation is going to be MK point annotation, and we'll simply initialize that constant, and now we'll set the annotation's coordinates to the location pin coordinates. So this was the first step, and now we can simply add the annotation to our map view using the add annotation function. So annotation, and then all we need to do now is calling map view again and show our annotations, which requires an array. So you can imagine that you can provide this show annotations method with a bunch of pins, which you are familiar with from the map app on every iPhone. So if you search for sushi in your area, you will find a bunch of pins on your map, and this is the way it works. And so we will only provide an array using brackets for our annotation that we have defined, and then we can simply also tell this function that it should be animated. So this is the first step. And if we were to run this application now, we wouldn't see a lot of things because we need to authorize first. And as you can see, only if the user already has authorized our app to use its location, we can call our getLocation. We can call our getLocation function. So to change that, we have already adopted the CL Location Manager Delegate, and there is a quite handy Delegate method, which is called Location Manager. It is did update did change authorization status, and that's pretty cool. So now we can actually ask if the status is not equal to CL authorization status not determined, or status is unequal to CL authorization status denied, or status is not equal to CL authorization status restricted. That means that if the status has changed and it is neither not determined, nor denied, nor restricted, then we can get the location. And so now we can give it a try and run our application for the first time. But note that if you try to run an application that needs to use the user's location, if you want to simulate that using the iPhone simulator, what you need to do, for example, is clicking on the active schemes and then edit the scheme. And then you find the scheme options here, and you need to check allow location simulation. And then you can also select the default location like Hong Kong, for example, and click close. And then once we run the application, that should work actually quite nicely. So let's see. And there we are. At the moment we are somewhere within the ocean. And now, as you can see, here is to update the map. This is the description we provided in the info plist. And our app asks, allow my location to access your location even when you are not using the app. Reason to update the map. Okay, and now we can click allow, and as you can see, now our location changed to Hong Kong. And this is because we have implemented that did change authorization status delegate method, which directly called get location once its authorization status has changed. So that was the first step. Now, as you recall from the little demonstration at the beginning of this tutorial, we also want the exact address of our location of this red pin. So what we need to do is reverse geocode the location that we have that we got from the GPS coordinates that our app possesses already in display location. So to do that, we can also again use the location manager. This has some really convenient functions, as you can see. So we will use the display location function for that reason as well, and call the location manager and call reverse geocode location with coordinates. And as you can see here, you can also use Google as a service here to reverse geocode the location that we have provided here as a parameter. So we will simply use reverse geocode location with coordinates, and this wants us to provide this function with some coordinates, which we already have here as our location parameter. And then you can see here a completion handler on reverse geocoding completion handler, and there it is. And when we print line this reverse geocode info, you can see that we get quite a bunch of useful information. So let me run our application again. And when we have a look at the console down here, you can see a lot of information. And what we are going to use is simply the formatted address. And as you can see, you could use a lot of that stuff, the country, the administrative area, and the latitude and longitude, again, the street number and the sub-locality. You get the idea. You have a lot of information here which you can process within your app. So we don't want to print line that, but what we want to do is get the address. And we will do that using the reverse geocode info, use the object for key accessor, and then we want the formatted address, and then cast that to a string. And then we can use self.location info, which is the label that we have created in the interface builder earlier, use its text property and provide it with the address. And once we build that, build succeeded, and then we can run our application again. And as you can see, there we are. We have the street, we have the city, and to change our location in the simulator, that's quite tricky. So we have to deactivate the simulator, press Command Q, and then we have to go to the scheme again, select, let's say, London, and run the application again. And then, as you can see now, we are here in London at the Piccadilly Circus. And that's it, actually. All we need to do now is provide our update button here with some functionality. And as you can see here, all we need to do is, again, call the get location function within the IB action that we have already created. And as you can see, once we click on update location, we really do the update, and this is really pretty simple. So what you have to keep in mind is link to the MapKit framework, add one of the two description keys, and of course a description to your info plist. And if you want, you can use this location manager by Jimmy Joe's, which is really great and really convenient. I highly recommend using it. And that's it, actually. So these are the simple steps to get your user's location. Have fun.